But definitely in those early homeschooling years, I didn't even know what to do. I was so frazzled because I felt this pressure, like I need to be teaching her. She needs to be learning her ABCs. Why isn't she learning her numbers? Like, what am I doing wrong? This is just not working.
Welcome to Cultivating Cadence. I'm glad to have you. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. Well, I'm Laura, and I'm a homeschool simplicity coach, a second generation homeschooler, mom of two, professional organizer, and early childhood educator. And so I help overwhelmed homeschool moms go from burnout and chaos to peace and confidence by simplifying their homes, building daily rhythms, and teaching systems that actually stick. So we simplify their home and their homeschool to equip mom with tools for lasting peace.
I love that. Also, um, we just did a cleanup of our kitchen this weekend, and it's you can breathe so much easier when you declutter things, And so I want to talk a little bit about that today, but around here we work on burnout a lot. So I love that you are coming at it, especially for homeschool moms. A lot of my audience does homeschool or wants to homeschool or wants to find the right schooling type for them. And so I like that. So first, how long have you guys been homeschooling?
Well, we started homeschooling when my daughter was 3, so that was 7 years ago.
Okay.
Although
Wait, she's 10?
she'll be 10 next month or in September. Yeah.
I moved away from California 10 years ago.
Yep.
That's crazy. Okay, sorry, continue.
Yeah. So I actually started when she was an infant. I tried to start with Montessori. It didn't
Mhm.
work real well.
Okay.
So I officially tried in preschool, but what I figured out was I bought this fancy curriculum and it had workbooks and books and just all this stuff. And she didn't want to do any of it. She wanted to do a puzzle or two, but when we sat down to do the workbooks, it was horrendous, which is crazy because now I have a 3-year-old son and he's exact opposite. He's pulling the workbooks off the shelf and shoving them at me saying, let's do this. So it's just so funny how every single kid is different and every kid's educational journey is different. And it's crazy.
It is. They are so different they have some similarities and you see that with your kids, but they're so different and how they approach things, and it's wild to watch.
Yeah.
So, we've known each other for a long time. For those that don't know, we've known each other for 15 years now.
Something like that.
So, something like that. Yeah. So, it's been a long time. And in that time, we've both made a lot of shifts over the years. And so, something that has come up with people that I've brought on, especially moms that I've brought on to talk to them about when we talk about times of burnout and how we kind of overcome them, a lot of them came with pivots, like pivoting what we're doing, how we're doing it. So, I want to hear from you. Tell me a little bit about your experience with burnout, and then I want to shift into talking about some pivots you made and some things you've kind of kept the same over time. But first, tell me a little bit about your experience with burnout.
Burnout's real. It's so real. I think I've gone through multiple seasons of it through, babyhood is hard and then toddlerhood is hard and just every stage is hard. But definitely in those early homeschooling years, I didn't even know what to do. I was so frazzled because I felt this pressure, like I need to be teaching her. She needs to be learning her ABCs. Why isn't she learning her numbers? Like, what am I doing wrong? This is just not working. And I think that really started just a mental breakdown of me feeling like a failure as a teacher and as a mom. And then our house was building and becoming more cluttered, and I had a second kid, and I didn't even like go into this upstairs space for 2 years because it was like
Mm-hmm.
the shove all, like dump everything up there because I have a new baby and I just can't even deal with it. And so I hit my breaking point when I had an elementary student and a screaming toddler. And I'm like, I can't, just throw it all out the window. Like, I'm done. I can't deal with this house. I can't deal with the noise and the overstimulation and the clutter. And I certainly can't homeschool. This is just not working. So I've been there. I
Yes.
get it.
Yeah, and this year, so I've got a now a 6-year-old and a 5-year-old, but when we started the school year, I had a 5-year-old and 4-year-old. And I could tell, well, one, we had to do something financially. Like there just had to be. So it's not like I woke up one day and was like, yeah, I'm opening a private practice. Like it was over a year in the making of me waiting for Washington to transfer my license and everything. Cause obviously to be a therapist, you have to be licensed. But once all that was processed, it was perfect timing for the school year to start. And I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, homeschooling is probably not in the cards for us, at least not this year. And I want them on the same page. And so we have a program in our district that's a hybrid program, like homeschool, and they go to school a couple days a week and then they're home. So anyway, I was like, that'd be great, but it starts at kindergarten and I have a pre-K-er. So I have to figure something out. So we got him into all day pre-K. We got her into kindergarten. And honestly, for her, it was one of the best things we've ever done. She thrived there. But I do remember at the beginning of the year feeling a lot of guilt, like, oh, I thought I was supposed to be this homeschool mom. And it's not for everybody, but we need the resources for it. But that's where the pivots come in, right? And then I realized a couple months in, I was like, this has been the best thing for both of them. He has grown, he has learned. Whether we'll stay that way, I don't know. Our son might end up thriving better in a homeschool or hybrid environment, whereas our daughter will probably, she is an extrovert, she loves people, school might just be her thing. I don't know. But I love that we have the freedom to make that choice. But you're right, you get to that point where it's like, yes, mine are closer in age than yours, but there's still two different sets of needs that you as a mom, not only am I trying to address your educational needs, but I have to keep you alive.
Yep.
And then add chronic illness on top of that, or neurodivergence on top of that, or kids with it can be a lot to juggle and balance. And so, yeah, I totally see that, especially if you've got so different ages, a toddler while you're trying to educate, it's a lot. So tell me about some pivots you've made in business that helped you accommodate this year as being a smoother homeschooling experience. What are some pivots you've made in life and business that helped you recover from burnout in that?
I think the biggest pivots was I realized that I needed to find out the way my kids learned and how can I nurture that. So we had been trying to do school at the kitchen table,
Mhm.
and that was not working because my toddler was screaming. He didn't have a place to play. And so this room that I'm in now used to just be a storage disaster. And I was like, okay, we got to clean this out and we got to make this a homeschool room, playroom. So this side is their homeschool spaces and the other side is their play spaces. And so now my daughter can sit at her desk and do her work while my son sits at his desk and colors or plays with his toys over there. And so, yes, they're still fighting. Yes, there's still, issues, but it's 99% better than it was when we were just trying to wing it.
Right.
So that was the first pivot. And I had to pivot our expectations and our schedules too, because I have that. I want to get up at 7 a.m. and start school at 8 and be done by 9. But my daughter rolls out of bed at 9 and my husband's leaving for work and I've got a work call over here. And I'm like, ah,
Yeah.
those expectations of we have to make this work for everybody. And so we had to kind of simplify the rhythm of, some days look a little bit different than other days. And
Mhm.
some days we only do one subject and some days we do 5 subjects. And that's just the flow we have to go with. I'm trying to think what else.
Well, while you think about any other pivots that may have happened, I do want to ask about your business too, but I love that you're talking about rhythms because one of the things that I work with moms on is the rhythm. I help them really sit down and work through all those things you're talking about. Like when I first created my way back in the day, I called it the Motherhood Cadence course where I was helping moms find their rhythm. It was really like that's where all of it started, where it was like, okay, we have to figure out what rhythms work for our families, right? Like my kids rolled out of bed at 6:30 this morning, both of them. And I was like, I'm gonna burn the world to the ground because I don't do morning at all. Luckily, my husband is here, but I help moms kind of see what that's going to look like in each season because every season is different. Because when we started all these things, our husbands had different jobs. Their schedules looked different. What they were doing looked different. What we were doing looked different, right? And so I help moms look at those rhythms in each season and see, like, okay, what is it that we need now? What my kids need now is different than what they needed when they were 3 or 2. What your older kid needs now is different than what your younger kid needs now, because they're two different people. And so it's one of those things where if we can find the right rhythm for each season, it becomes so much easier to avoid burnout. And I know one thing for you, for those that don't know you or haven't seen any of our other content we've done together, because it's been a while, but a big thing that you've done throughout different times is like decluttering, how visual clutter affects us, how we slowly make changes. And that is such a key too. And then one thing that I have focused on is these rhythms of life. Because if we can ease our environment, which is something I'm actively working on right now because ours has gotten out of control, and you can find that rhythm, those two things play such a big role in burnout. Like decluttering, getting rid of the visual stimulation, and then having a rhythm that works for you, whether it looks like the rest of the world or not. So rhythms are really important and they change by season, right? And so establishing what works for your family, that the days might not look exactly the same. It matters. Those rhythms matter. So what about pivots in your business? How has that evolved over, at least, especially maybe the last, like, how old is your little guy? He's 3?
3, yeah.
3. So maybe over the last like 3 to 5 years, like how has your business changed to accommodate homeschooling, but also to have different stages of how you're supporting your family?
Yeah, so I was pretty active in my business when my daughter was younger, so maybe like 6 years ago or so. And then over time, I think I even burned out in that area of my life. And like I felt like I should do more, but I don't know if it was lacking motivation or time or whatever. I just never did take the next steps. And so my business kind of stalled out. And I would occasionally dabble in it and I'd stay sort of connected to my audience, but I really wasn't focused on it and it wasn't really bringing in any decent income, probably costing me more than it was bringing in. And so this year I was like, I really need to get back in this. I need to get focused. I need to invest in my business and actually grow my business again, for my family and just for my own self, because I kind of felt like I was losing myself as a mom and everything. So I decided that I was going to invest in a business course and I was going to listen to podcasts while I'm washing dishes and making dinner. And then I committed to getting up every morning at 5 a.m. so I could work from 5 to 6. And I have my different tasks for each day that I mark off my list and get everything done. So that has really helped me to kind of say, this is what life looks like. Like, yeah, I've got kids running around and I can't just film at any time of the day. And I have to have them try to be quiet when I am, like
Right.
you. And it's tough and it's a balancing act, but we've been able to make it work. And I think if you're really committed, you figure it out.
That's very true. It's so funny that you say that because this morning I was just thinking about how, like, well, obviously we just had this like little mini incident, but I was just thinking about how, like, I'm enjoying summer with them and I have plans to take them to the museum. And we've been going to every week a couple of different playgrounds, just exploring places we haven't been yet. And I'm loving summer, but there's also a small part of my brain that's counting down until school starts because, as we just said, sometimes childcare really does matter because you can't just film with your kids. Well, some people do, and more power to them. But I don't want my kids everywhere online.
Yeah.
But two, it's hard to film with your kids. So for the people doing it, it is sort of a matter of them like turning on the camera and just going. But at the same time, there is considerations to be had there. And for us, it might be more considerations because we have to, like you said, quiet the kids, do it in a different area or whatever, like I am today. But it's a lot. So I'm like, okay, but we're having so much fun that it's almost just enjoy the ride, just enjoy. And I love that I get to be the one to take them to school and pick them up. This year we get to walk to school too, which I'm so excited about because they go to the same place now and they didn't before. So I'm really excited about that. But it's what works for everybody. What schooling works for you, what schedules work for you, what rhythms work for you. And what happens is a lot of moms settle in into whatever it is and they're like, well, this is just this. And we have to make a choice. Like you said, for you, it's been waking up at 5 a.m. That will never be me. So for those of you listening that are like, but all the gurus say you have to wake up at 5 a.m. I promise you, you don't, but it does work for some people. So it's what works for you. That will never be me. It will never work for me. That's never going to be my life, but it does work
You
for
work
some
when
people.
your kids go to bed, right?
I do. Yes. I do
don't.
a lot. I do a lot when they go to bed. And then, like I said, now that they're in school, on the days that they're in school, I work in those pockets. And then I don't work the morning or the evening time. Like those are when I'm like with my kids. Yeah, you just find what works for you and your family, right? So for me, it's late nights. It's when the world is asleep after everyone goes to bed. For a lot of people, it's before the world wakes up. It's whatever works for you. So it's finding those pockets that really matter. When you work with other homeschool moms, are there any patterns that you've seen for them that tend to lead to higher levels of burnout or more incidences of wanting to like quit or fall apart? Have you noticed any of that?
I think the thing that I notice the most is the overscheduling and feeling like they have to do it all. So I know I've worked with a couple people who have their kids in like 3 or 4 different co-ops and programs, and they're still trying to do their home thing. And then they're doing like 2 or 3 sports. And then I'm like, whoa, back it up. You need to simplify.
Yeah.
Like, just pick one co-op, one curriculum, maybe one sport. Just you can't do it all. And that's the thing.
Right.
People feel like they should be doing it all. And just in our co-op, there'll be parents just saying, oh, well, I have my kid in this and this and this. And have you thought about that and that and that? And maybe we should do this. I'm like, you don't, homeschooling isn't about the freedom to pack your kid in as many enrichment things as possible because they're missing out on school. Like, somewhere along the way, we got this shift wrong.
Yeah.
We're not trying to compensate for the lack of the classroom. Like, it's okay. We can do the academics and then do the social things, but that could be a park, that could be a play date. That it doesn't have to be this extravagant thing that people have made it out to be. So I noticed that those families tend to be a little bit more higher on the burnout scale. And just listening to them makes me feel burned out. So I get it. But also the ones who are just drowning in clutter, and it's hard to focus on anything when there's just stuff everywhere and you're drowning in piles of laundry and dishes and nothing's working. So the lack of systems really leads to burnout.
Yeah, I've noticed that too, even in like working with parents whose kids go to public school, private school, homeschool. It's when you have a lot of visual stimulation, you lack rhythm, and I have noticed so many of them. And I've noticed this shift over time because if you think about when we were kids, there wasn't as much pressure to be in like 50 million things, right? I had theater, I had choir, and there were a couple times where we tested things like outside of that, like gymnastics, dance, but I didn't do them all at once.
Yeah.
And then when I was a nanny, these kids were in a few more things, right? Like I was doing the basketball shuttle, the dance shuttle, the uh martial arts shuttle, right? But they still had downtime. There was still plenty of time where I was with them at their house. They were playing video games. They were doing well. They had their own limits on screen time. It was the whole thing. But then I started working in the mental health field, and I started seeing this really big push to have kids in everything. And every night is scheduled, every night, and it is what is burning people out. It's like you can still become a well-rounded individual without all these things, but you're just putting so much pressure on yourself and your kids. Like even when I was a nanny and they only had 3 activities, I remember looking at their calendar being like, how are we all supposed to keep up with all of this? Honestly. Yeah. And now it's more so, and especially the more kids you have. So I can see that. And then the visual clutter. Yeah, I'm living that experience right now. This room I did a lot of work on earlier this year, so it's so much better, but we're slowly making our way through the rest of the house. But my kids' room causes me so much anxiety. I don't know how to approach it. I don't know where to start. It's honestly so overwhelming. So let's talk about the decluttering, because that's been a part of your business for almost the entirety,
Yeah.
basically since I've known you, right? It's so how has that adapted and changed over time, and what has stayed the same in how you approach clutter and organization?
Yeah. So the first thing is like I was a professional organizer before I even got married way back when. Decluttering as a single person is very different than decluttering with family and with kids.
Yes.
So that has been something that I've had to adapt over time and learn. Oh, this works. Oh, this does not work.
Right. Yeah.
And it's been a very interesting journey. And especially when your kids are under 3, you're still pretty much in control. But once they're over 3, they suddenly remember every toy that they've ever had. And they know exactly what clothes they want, even if they're ripped and have holes in them.
Or way too
And it gets
small.
so much harder.
Yes.
So it's definitely a journey. I've really had to kind of adapt on that. But um, let's see.
What about when the kids don't want you to get rid of your stuff because they're attached to your stuff? Because that's a problem that we have.
Yes. So this is my daughter. I will bring something out and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I love that." I'm like, "It's not even yours.
Right.
It's mine. You've never touched this in your life. Like, why are you suddenly attached to this?" Yeah, we've had to talk through that sometimes. Sometimes I'll let her have it for a few weeks and then she'll kind of get over it. And sometimes she's kept them. It's fun. It's a fun journey with
Yes.
these
Yes,
kids.
absolutely. Yeah, we've had that too, where like my daughter, it's my daughter mostly. My son is very good about, he loves throwing away trash. He will throw away things that belong to other people that he has decided is not, he will throw
Sure.
away his stuff. Like if he's just done with it, okay, I'm throwing it. And I'm like, okay, but that wasn't just yours. That belonged to both of you. And if it was just his, I'm like, okay, well then when you go to look for it again, remember this moment. Like, which usually is not a problem. But our daughter is the one that's very attached to things. And I can't blame her. I am the same way. You know, you've lived with me. You've seen me through this journey. So I can't blame her, but we have been really actively working on it. And it's just funny to me when it's something that belongs to me or my husband, and she's suddenly like, that cannot leave this house. And then we have to have that talk too of like, we want to have a space that we can all enjoy, that is safe and happy and clean, and we're not tripping over things. We're not losing clothes that actually matter because we're sorting through clothes that are 3 sizes too small, or it feels that way. They're never 3 sizes too small, but it feels that way. And we deserve to be able to find our stuff that we actually use and then learn to let go of the stuff that we don't use.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, those conversations, like, you have to repeat them over and over. Eventually they will get them. My daughter finally at like 9 started understanding that, and now she's much better at decluttering things herself. But I don't know if you use like a time will tell box, like, okay, let's put this in a box and put this away for 3 months, and if you don't ask for it, it's going to be donated in 3 months. Usually they forget about it and move on, but it's just tough.
yeah, I actually have not thought about doing that, but that's actually a really good idea because we're about to start doing a really big deep clean of their bedroom. Like they have way too much stuff, and unfortunately for us, a lot of it that they've like held on to so tightly is like crap that they've gotten over the last 6 years from McDonald's or Wendy's, or like
Always the little toys.
it's like the little plastic things that I'm like, one, these are terrible. Two, they're ugly. And three, you don't actually play with them. They're just literally sitting here in clutter. But, it's not it's their world. So we're really working on, and I think I'm resistant to the emotional it's overwhelming, first of all, because visually it's just like, where do I start? But also the emotional, like, this is going to be a really emotional process
Yeah.
that we're all about to dive into here. So,
It is, but I do have a tip for that. The first thing you want to do is get a box or a bin, and I don't know, my daughter's isn't here, but um I got a nice bin about this big, so a good size one from Target, and it's her treasure box. And so I said, go around your room, find all your treasures, the things you really love, artwork, little toys, whatever. Put whatever you want in that box. It has a lid on it and everything. That's your treasures box. I don't care what's in there. I'm not going to touch anything in there. That is your sacred treasure box. And then once that's full, it's full. And now we have to look around and we have to part with some stuff. Maybe the stuff that's left is stuff that you don't really like anymore or you've moved on from.
like this size,
Um,
or is this
I
too
got like a
small?
deeper one, so it's a taller
Okay.
one, but I mean it could be any size, whatever works for you. But yeah, and if they need two of them, if they have a lot of stuff, it's fine as long because it's in a nice container and you can stack it and you don't have to look at it. It's great, all the treasure boxes you want.
Right. I just bought them each 2 boxes for like their toy boxes. And then we have a bigger toy box for joint stuff. But I haven't thought about the treasure box idea where it's like these are the really important things, and then the rest is stuff we have to go through. So that's a really good first step. I might use these as them though, because they will try to keep everything.
Yeah.
So I might use these to start with of like the super important things and then build from there.
Yeah. And with the treasure boxes, when they're full, like every month or so, I do make her go through it and I'll sit
Okay.
with her and kind of be like, are you sure you need that? Are you sure? Just to
Right.
kind of get her thinking. Then she's like, oh, yeah, this old thing. Yeah, I can get rid of that. Because you won't be able to put new treasures in if it's full of old stuff. So it's just that learning that, and it's a great tool to teach them how to declutter in a way that they're like, this is still my safe place. She's not making me, I'm making decisions, but I'm now seeing, oh, this has been sitting in here for a while and I haven't touched it. I think I can let that go.
Right. That actually makes a lot of sense. And so does that time will tell box. Like that's a really good idea. Okay, so great tips. So when you are working with moms who are trying to get organized and trying to like get their homeschooling life in order, um, what is a really easy first step in either the homeschooling process or the decluttering process that you help them kind of go through that sets them up for success?
So it kind of depends on what is the biggest pain point, but usually I do suggest that they start decluttering like their homeschool desk, their area, not the whole homeschool space, not everything, but just they need a place to sit down and plan and, just have your stuff in order. So not everybody has a homeschool desk either. So, wherever you store your books or sit down and do your planning, kind of that area. My desk had gotten terrible. It had like 2 years of stuff piled up on it because I hadn't been working on it for the last 2 years. And so that's where I started. I took an hour, and I don't even think it took an hour. It was like 45 minutes, and just got rid of the trash. And then I put things away that belonged in other places. And then I made places for the things that didn't have a place. And then I took the papers and I said, okay, this is something I need to take action on. This is something I need to file. This is something that I can throw away. And just doing that gave me a space that I can sit down, and now I have a clear desk, and you know I can sit and I can think. It gives your
Right.
brain some time to think. um After that, then we go into like the areas of the house. We work on your living room, and then we work on different rooms in your house based on how overwhelming they are.
I think that's great advice because if we don't have a good space to work, when I clean this room out, the organizer I work with, we focused on my desk, and it was honestly, it didn't take as much time as I thought, but it was one of the hardest things to work on because I was so overwhelmed by what's on it. And honestly, it's starting to get a little crazy. Like I'm here working at it, which would not have been a possibility before, but it's starting to build back up and it's like chaos. And so that is a task on my to-do list over the next week or so, is finding time to do this, because when we have a clear space to work, it's so much easier to sit down and do work. And starting with where you work and you need to think is so important. And something I talk to my clients about a lot is creating margin. And I usually talk about that in terms of time. But what you're helping people do is also do that in terms of their living space.
Yeah.
So we talk about margin a lot in terms of time, but we forget that there's also a way to do that in terms of your space. Because if every surface is cluttered, if every surface contains something, it's hard to breathe. It's hard to think. It's hard to function. And so going through and keeping those spaces is so helpful. So I love that. Okay, so how can people work with you? Do you have a freebie for them to sign up for? I Okay, so for those that don't know, Laura does have a YouTube channel, so I'll link that where I can. But how else can they access you or work with you?
I have a podcast called Homeschool Simplicity. So that shows up every Friday. And then I do have a weekly newsletter called Unstuck that gets you one step closer to simplicity. And you can get it on that by getting my freebie, Homeschool Simplicity Staples at lauranewell.com/start.
Okay, great. I will also link those below. So for those watching this video, those will be in the description. When this goes up on my podcast, which is months behind, this will go up on YouTube way before it goes up on the podcast, but it'll be in the show notes once it goes on the podcast form. But I want to let everyone have access to you. But once they get in your program, what is it like to work with you? Like if they want to pay for your services, what is it like to actually work with you? What does that look like?
So right now I have a mini course about clearing off your desk and your homeschool space. And then I am about to launch the beta for my course, Project Homeschool Simplicity. So that will be coming very soon.
Okay. So follow her to get all the information about that. For those that are here and you're wondering more about life's rhythms and just burnout in general and finding work-life balance and how to calm the mental chaos, you can work with me. You can come watch more of my videos. I'm an LMFT who's also a motherhood wellness, mental wellness coach. But Laura and I do a lot of things that overlap, but also a lot of things that are different. So I have a resource list for my clients, and she will be included for those that homeschool and want to declutter, because that is not my area of expertise. If you could see my desk right now, you would know that for sure. So she'll be in there. But thank you for talking with me about all this stuff today. I appreciate it. Yeah, so thank you for talking to me about this stuff today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so very fun.